The summer heat in Bangalore was relentless that year, the kind that melts the asphalt and makes the air shimmer. I was staying with my Ajji, my grandmother, in her old house in Maleswaram. It was a sprawling, single-story home with a red-tiled roof and a large courtyard, a relic from a bygone era tucked away in the city's heart. I loved spending my holidays there, away from the concrete jungle of my parents' apartment. But that particular summer, a strange sort of fear, as thick and suffocating as the humidity, began to seep into the neighborhood. It started with whispers, hushed conversations between neighbors over the compound walls, anxious phone calls. My Ajji would end with a sigh and a prayer. A few people had died unexpectedly. The doctors said heart attacks, but the locals knew better. They said she had come for them. One evening, as Ajji was lighting the evening lamp in the puja room, I finally asked her, "Ajji, who is everyone so afraid of?" She finished her prayer, her lips moving silently before turning to me. Her face, usually so full of warmth, was etched with a deep-seated worry. "It is a spirit, Kanna, a restless one. They say she wanders the streets at night, calling out to people, calling out to them." Why? I was intrigued. The supernatural stories my grandmother told were usually about gods and benevolent demons, not this. "She is a bridal spirit," Ajji explained, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "She roams the streets, looking for her groom, but all she brings is death. She knocks on doors, calling out in the voice of a loved one, your mother, your sister, a friend. Voices you would trust without a second thought. If you open the door, you are gone by morning." A shiver traced its way down my spine, despite the sweltering heat. "So, what do people do?" "We write Nale Ba on our doors," she said, pointing to the chalk inscription she had painstakingly written earlier that day next to our main door. "It means come tomorrow." When the spirit sees it, she reads it and leaves, only to return the next night and the next. As long as the words are there, you are safe for another day. I scoffed, a nervous, youthful sound. "Geez, that's just a story, right? A superstition." She looked at me, her eyes firm. "Some things are older than our understanding, Ravi. It is better to be safe than to be sorry. Now, promise me. No matter what you hear, no matter who you think is at the door after sunset, you will not open it. Promise me." I promised, though a part of me, the part that prided itself on logic and reason, felt it was all a bit silly. The next few days passed in a strange, tense quiet. The usually bustling streets became deserted as soon as the sun began to dip below the horizon. The only sounds were the chirping of crickets and the distant city hum. Every morning, I'd see my Ajji and the other women in the neighborhood diligently rewriting Nale Ba on their doors and gates, their faces grim with concentration. The chalk marks were like talismans, warding off an unseen enemy. Then, one night, it happened. I was in my room, trying to read under the dim light of a table lamp. Ajji had gone to bed early, her rosary beads clutched in her hand. The house was silent, wrapped in the heavy blanket of the night. Around midnight, a faint sound drifted from the front of the house. Knock, knock, knock. It was a soft, hesitant knock. My heart leaped into my throat. I froze, my book slipping from my hands. "It's just the wind," I told myself. A stray cat. My mind raced, trying to find a rational explanation. Then, a voice, Ravi-san, opened the door. It was my mother's voice. My blood ran cold. It couldn't be. My parents lived on the other side of the city. They wouldn't just show up at midnight without calling. It was her, the spirit. What Aji had described was happening. But the voice, it was perfect. The same gentle tone she used when she was worried about me. The exact cadence, the slight lilt. Ravi, are you there? I had a bad dream about you. I just wanted to see if you were okay. Please, open the door. My rational mind was at war with the primal fear gripping my soul. This is a trick. It's not real. But the voice was so convincing, so full of maternal concern. What if something was genuinely wrong? What if my mother had driven all the way here, frantic with worry, and I was leaving her standing outside? The knocking came again, a little more insistent this time. Ravi, please, it's late. Just open up. I squeezed my eyes shut, Aji's words echoing in my head. No matter what you hear, you will not open it. I took a deep, shaky breath and stayed put. I didn't make a sound. For what felt like an eternity, there was silence. I thought maybe it had given up, that it had gone away. My heart began to slow its frantic rhythm. And then I heard it, a different voice. Ravi, it's me, Vikram, my best friend. My stomach twisted into a knot. This was a new level of cruel. Vikram's voice was just as perfect as my mother's had been. The casual, slightly teasing tone he always used. Dude, what are you doing? Your grandma said you were here. I was just passing by. Come on, man. Open up. I won't stay long. My hand instinctively moved towards the doorknob of my room. It was so tempting. It sounded so real, so normal. This couldn't be a ghost. This was my friend. Maybe he was in some kind of trouble. Maybe he needed my help. The thought of Vikram being in danger and me hiding inside like a coward was agonizing. But Aji's face, her serious, pleading eyes, flashed in my mind. Promise me. I stayed frozen, my body rigid with conflict. The silence stretched again, longer this time. I strained my ears, listening for the sound of retreating footsteps, for a car starting, for anything. There was nothing, just the oppressive stillness of the night. And then the final voice came. It was the one that shattered my resolve. It was my own voice. Let me in. It wasn't an echo. It wasn't my imagination. It was my voice, clear as day, coming from the other side of the door. The same pitch, the same intonation. It was like listening to a recording of myself. There's no point in hiding, my own voice said, calm and chillingly patient. You can't hide from yourself. Open the door. Panic, pure and undiluted, flooded my system. This was beyond anything I could have imagined. How could it know my voice? How could it replicate it so flawlessly? It felt like it was inside my head, peeling back layers of my sanity. The doorknob began to rattle, softly at first, then more violently. The old wood of the doorframe groaned under the pressure. It wasn't just knocking anymore. It was trying to get in. I scrambled backwards, my back hitting the wall. I couldn't scream. The sound was trapped in my throat, choked by terror. The rattling grew louder, more frantic. It sounded like the door was about to splinter and break. I covered my ears, shut my eyes, and started praying. I recited every prayer Ajee had ever taught me, the words tumbling out in a desperate, whispered jumble. I prayed to every god I could name, and then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The silence that followed was more terrifying than the noise had been. I stayed huddled against the wall, shaking, too scared to even breathe. Minutes stretched into an hour. The first hint of dawn began to paint the sky outside my window, chasing away the deep, inky blackness. Only when the sun was fully up, casting its warm, golden light across the floor, did I dare to move. My limbs were stiff, my body drenched in cold sweat. I crept out of my room, my heart still pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I found my Ajee in the kitchen, calmly making her morning coffee, as if nothing had happened. She looked up and smiled, but the smile faltered when she saw my face. "What is it, Kanna? You look like you've seen a ghost." I couldn't speak. I just pointed a trembling finger towards the front door. She followed my gaze, and her eyes widened slightly. On the outside of the door, right below the faded chalk letters of Nale Ba, were fresh scratch marks, dozens of them. Deep gouges in the dark wood, splintering the surface around the doorknob, and, scratched furiously over the words Nale Ba, was a single, chilling reply, carved into the door as if by a sharp nail. It said, "Why? I never spent another summer at my Ajee's house." Even now, years later, living in a high-rise apartment far away, I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night, thinking I hear a soft knock on my door, and I can never shake the chilling memory of my own voice, asking to be let in. Some doors are meant to stay closed. Thanks for listening. If this story sent a shiver down your spine, hit that subscribe button for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe, and always, always check who's knocking.